Hello, I'm Amanda Randall. I'm a behavior analyst. I'm working with individuals with autism and individuals with various intellectual disabilities. And I'm also one of the state coordinators for the Virginia Department of Education. Today I'm going to talk to you about assessing social abilities of individuals with autism. We're going to start with looking at those specific behaviors of the individuals with autism, and then later we're going to talk about implementing strategies to help change those behaviors of individuals with autism. Let's start with the importance of social abilities. So, social abilities are more important than academic skills or job skills. Mostly because if you don't have social abilities, you really can't do the small talk at work, you can't talk to your peers in the classroom. Your perception by others becomes whatever your ability to interact socially is. So a big part of helping students with autism transition into the work setting or transition into college is giving them those skills so that they can have small talk and talk to friends, make friends, and really have the ability to interact in various environments and understand the different cultures of those environments. Everybody knows when you go to work, there's a certain culture when you get there. And if you can't look at the social cues and really understand what's going on and sort of respond to those social cues, it's going to be hard to maintain your self-esteem and also to make friends in that environment. When we look at some of the data from the National Longitudinal Transition Study too, there was a lack of interactions for individuals with autism. They didn't make friends on their own. They weren't making phone calls. And I know today we're looking more at like text messaging and social media, but that's easy to sit and send a text. About anyone can do that. But that actual social interactions of being able to look at someone and make eye contact and smile and all those type of things and maintain those relationships over time is really important. So those are some of the things that this study was looking at, and also looking at how do those skills transition to help those individuals maintain jobs. Individuals with autism need to be able to acquire a job and maintain a job. We all know someone in our life who they can get a job, but when they get there, mysteriously, they're not able to stay. So we really want to help our individuals with autism get a job and maintain that job. So looking at this data again, only 6% of individuals with autism have full-time employment during the time of this study. That's a very low number compared to the amount of individuals who have autism. And if they did have full-time employment, they were making significantly less than your typical developing individuals. And that's not great either, because then how can they go out and do those social things with their friends? How can they have their own apartment if they're not making a sufficient amount of money to maintain those type of lifestyles? So what socially motivates you? Everybody is socially motivated by something different. You have those people who they want to go out and they want to party, they want to, rock out for the whole night. And then you have those people who are just fine with an intimate setting with their friends, or have a small group of friends who they really like and they just want to be with those people. And it's different for everybody. So when we're thinking about individuals with autism, that's where you want to start. What socially motivates them? Talking to their parents, what do they do when they're on their own, when no one's watching them? Or what are some of their interests? Who would be someone who they would typically hang out with? Because a lot of times when we manufacture these relationships, they don't sustain over time. And that's what we don't want to get into with our individuals with autism. So looking at social motivation, it changes over time. When we were really young, we just had to figure out how to share and be nice. You can go play with anybody. When you put two young kids in a room right now, before long, they might be interacting with each other, because it's sort of easy to figure out what's going on and what I should do to play with this kid. And they don't even have to talk at all. They can just have a good time. But as you get older, it changes, because you might get put into a situation that you've never been put into before. People who you thought were your friends may go out and exhibit some behaviors that you weren't expecting them to partake in, and there will not be a social script for that situation. So we really want to try to help our students with autism understand What motivates me socially? What do I need to do when I'm in the situation where I'm not comfortable? I need an exit strategy, or when I'm in a situation where I really like it and I want to interact with the people. So looking at those excesses of social behaviors and those deficits of social behavior. When you look at the 5 dimensions of social skills, these are some of those skills that are needed by transition age youth. So you need to include these when you're trying to say, what do I need to teach them? You need to teach them how to interact with peers, and that will transition to the workplace. You need to teach them how to self-manage and be aware of what's going on, things that they're doing wrong, things that they know is a social expectation, but they need to change it. Looking at those academic skills, compliance and assertion, these are all skills that are going to be needed in school, in the workplace, and in the community. So they're all very important. One of the charts that we often look to for figuring out human behavior is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when I looked at this chart, it sort of made me sad because I think about the prerequisites for having self-esteem and self-actualization. The third tier of that is love and belonging. In order to have love and belonging, you have to really be able to maintain friendships and feel that you are loved and also exhibit love and really understand that sense of family. And most individuals with autism are able to have family because you're born into a family, but those other two can sometimes be tough because you have to be able to do the give and take in a social situation to maintain those. So without the friendships and love and family, the individual with autism may not ever understand their self-worth. And for me, that was a little sad to really think of it in that light. Some of the deficits of individuals with autism, and you might know this, but they vary with individuals with autism. Everybody's different, just like you and I are very different. So some of the skills that you have, I might not have. But in general, they're going to lack some of that interaction abilities. They're going to fail to make friends easily. We're going to look at some videos later and you'll hear Nick talk about his friends, but then also you'll hear Larry talk about his friends, and those friends are his day habilitation workers. So some of us will say, well, those aren't his friends. Well, he thinks they're his friends, but that's because he hasn't had the ability to make friends outside of his day support program. Not understanding when to terminate conversations. A lot of times we engage in some of those conversations with individuals with autism because we know it's a way we can talk to them. You know, he loves to talk about the Civil War. So anytime we talk to him, we just keep talking about the Civil War and we let them go on and on and on. But we don't teach them how to terminate that behavior and maybe pay attention to what the other individual was talking about, and just really know when no one's listening anymore, it's time to be quiet and walk away. So a lot of these skills are things that are deficits for various individuals with autism, but they're going to range. One may have this level of skills and the other may have a different, so really being conscious of that. When you look at this bubble, look at it for a second. It's a bit overwhelming when you look at the young man in the teal with the brown pants. He has a lot of bubbles going on. And this is what happens with a lot of our individuals with autism. We ask them one question, and they're trying to process that social script that we gave them. They're trying to process that video that you showed them last week. They're also trying to process what's going on behind you, or why is your mouth like that, or why do you have a crumb on the side of your mouth? There may be a lot of things going on in that individual's head when all you asked is, how are you doing today? So the processing becomes more of a problem than the actual skills. They may have those skills in there, but because they haven't practiced over time, it's harder for them to just exhibit those skills right there in that situation. So we really want to make sure that we're practicing various situations so that those social interactions become second nature for individuals with autism. So looking at the social deficits, it's hard to teach social skills because you often didn't have to learn them yourself. There's things like, eye contact and high five. It's something you just sort of picked up on because someone kept doing it with you. And you know that you don't walk down the hallway and give every single person a high five. But it's hard for individuals with autism because maybe they do need to be taught those skills in a discrete manner. And it's hard for us as providers because we have to think, how do I teach them that? Because I just do it. It's not as concrete as 2 plus 2. Like I can show them, I can say it to them, I can find 4 things anywhere and show them what 2 plus 2 is. So it's really hard to teach these skills. So don't think that you're going to be able to figure this out in one day. You're going to have to practice. I would definitely suggest starting with your shiny pennies, those individuals in your setting who have some of the skills and you just need to, tweak them a little bit or shape them into exactly what you're looking for. And also making sure you're doing assessment. Figure out where they're starting from. Make sure that you're taking baseline data. Just like any other behavior, if you're not being conscious of what you're teaching and how you're teaching it, you may not know what some of the problems are and do error correction as you're proceeding. And make sure that it's individualized. Some of the social skills groups or some social settings, you may want to teach all the students or all the employees the same thing all at once, and that may not be possible for individuals with autism. You really need to look at that individual and decide what is it that he or she needs and how am I going to teach it to them. These list of advantages, they came from skillsyouneed.com, and I love these advantages because it's a website for typically developing people who are looking to try to acquire those skills they need in the workplace. And so I took these skills and I'm like, well, that's exactly what we need for individuals with autism to be able to survive in the workplace. And I talk about college and work, but work is ultimate. The only reason we go to college is so we can get a job. So when you look at the advantages, you're going to have more relationships if you have those social abilities, better communication skills, greater quality relationships. And that goes back to what I was saying about manufactured relationships where we've put them together and then what if they don't work? So we want individuals to have quality relationships, more job and career opportunities. A lot of times you see people and you're like, they do not know what they're doing in their job, but they're really happy and, they're nice and they talk to everyone, so we'll keep them. That's okay for some of our individuals with autism. Whatever keeps them in their job, that's fine. Increased overall happiness. Those people who are going to be really close to them can help them to get to that level where we talked about self-esteem and self-actualization. It decreases anxiety about social situations, having them to have a sense of security that I have the skills I need to go to this next location is very essential. And an increased quality of life, which is what we're really all looking for. So for the steps for implementation, the thing you're going to start with is identifying the target behaviors. When you're looking at a behavior such as, throwing a chair or having a tantrum, it's easy to see that's the behavior that I want to change. Social skills have to be the same way. You have to figure out what is the behavior you want to increase or decrease, because some social skills we need to decrease if it's an excess. So target that behavior, figure out exactly what is that behavior. Are they doing it now or are they not doing it? How often are they doing that behavior? And what do I want them to do instead, or what do I want to teach them? It's really going through these steps. These steps come directly from the National Professional Development Center on Autism. We'll talk more about that website in the implementation webinar, but these are just some of those steps for implementation that make it easy, where you don't have to go and purchase a curriculum per se, but you can follow these steps. So the first one that we're going to talk about is assessment. What are you going to assess? You're going to look at the social strengths. What are their strengths? What are they already doing? How can I really work on that? Because as much as possible, you want to give them access to success so that they are being successful more often. They are already getting some of that behavior momentum and being happy and understanding that I can have some of the skills I need in a social situation. Then you want to look at their deficits. What are the areas where they need more skills? What are the areas that I really need to target? You may have a list of them, but start small. Start with some of the easier ones because those are the foundational ones they're going to need to build on. look at the age-appropriate skills. For transition age students, you're going to need to go to a college or a high school and look at what skills their peers are exhibiting. We all think we're really cool, but at the end of the day, you may not be exhibiting the skills that that individual is going to need to be successful amongst their peers. So make sure that you're looking at age-appropriate skills. And observe them with different interactions. Who are some of the people that they have really positive interactions with already? Because those can be some of the people that you're going to start teaching those skills with. What are some of the things they're already interested in? Because those may be some of the things you can build social groups around. When you do the assessment, you need to include the student. I can't stress enough, the individual with autism is the most essential person in this process, because if it's not about them and their strengths and the things that they're interested in, it's not going to last long, because their buy-in is going to be out at the very beginning. You're going to be forcing something on them. The parents have a whole different vantage points than we have working with them as a provider, because they see them in their natural setting. They see that individual when there are no demands put on them, when they're going to work, when they're going to church, when they're out in the community. They see a lot of different angles of this individual that you may not have the option to see them. And then their teacher, their employer, whoever it might be, who sees them in that work setting or that school setting on a daily basis. And then other people. There's been a couple situations where there are people in the school who interact with this student, and I had no idea. There was one instance where a janitor was really reinforcing for one of my individuals with autism in high school, because he loves to pour stuff, and the janitor would allow him to come in there and fill up all of his jugs of spray to take out to the teachers and stuff like that. And then he'd give them 50 cents to go buy a Coke. So we worked in just some basic communication questions, and the janitor was awesome. He was like, oh yeah, I can make him say Coke before I give him 50 cents, or can I pour before he pours? So some of those people in the environment who you might not think are a great resource to you, look to those individuals, because they can be some of the most essential reinforcing people, because they're just casual to the individual. They're not putting pressure on them. So that carries us to observing them in their natural environment, looking at things that they already do. There's interviews. You can see attached in the Fast Facts, there's some links to different assessments that I did with the individuals in this video. It shows their writing skills, it shows their responses to the questions. Interviews are very important, because you get that, not only you get to observe the social interactions, but you get to really see the gamut of what the individual has to offer. So you want to interview the individual, you want to interview the teacher, interview the parent. You really get a chance to talk to them. Sometimes people can't put in writing what they need to say, so I feel like interviews are very important. Also, creating mock situations. When you create a mock situation, you can set them up, you can try out different situations to see how they actually react in there, so that you can decide exactly what skills you need to change for that individual with autism. When you look online, there are a ton of different assessment options. There are a lot of them. So I tried to pull out some of the free ones. I really like free stuff. So I tried to pull out the ones that you can easily use. They're just a couple pages, or they're very systematic across the parent, the student, the teacher. The first one, the Scott Bellini Building Social Relationships, that's the one that I used, and you're going to see responses in the interview form to some of those questions. And I think that one, I really like that one, because it's easy. There are questions that also talk about long-term goal planning, which really was eye-opening for me to hear from some of my students what their long-term goals are, and also to see what the parents' long-term goals were for some of their students. Each one of these, there's a link in the Fast Facts so that you can look them over and decide which one is best for you. I also use the Cambridge Friendship Questionnaire, so you'll see Nick's response from that one. I really like that one a lot, because it just gave him a chance to sit down and reflect on who he is. He's a much higher level thinker, and so this was a good one for him to really think about some of his own behaviors and some of the things that he needs to be doing as far as social skills are concerned. So those are the two that you'll see examples for. So the best part of this whole webinar to me is getting to know the individuals with autism. So we're going to start with Nick. Nick is 17 years old. He's a senior in high school, and he's also taking part-time community college classes. And Nick is super smart. So high school is really the place where it's like he's over high school because he realizes that it's not socially reinforcing. He would rather be somewhere where he can learn a little more. So he's began to take college classes, and he's fought to be able to do that in his school division, and I'm very proud of him for that. He lives with his mother and his sister and his father, and Nick is just a really cool kid. Larry is 20 years old. He's right now in a rehabilitation center. He just transitioned there. I think this is his second year there. He lives with his mother, his father, and his brother. And he's a really cool kid who we've seen grow over the years. His communication is not as clear as we would like it to be. And so you'll get to see some of those interviews. With these two students, we looked at the Scott Bellini building social relationship questionnaires that I talked to you about. So we did the parent interview, and we did a teacher interview, which I did because I have been in a situation where I'm sort of a provider. I'm not a teacher to them, but I have provided services for them. So I did the teacher interview, and you'll see a link to that in your Fast Facts, and the child interview. And they say child in most of these because there's not a lot of assessments out there that are free for adults with autism. But for these, you'll see that it's not child specific. They say in your setting. They don't always say school. So I felt pretty safe about using that. The questions are pretty generic. They don't, tailor only to the school setting. And then the autism social skills profile, and that's one that is a checklist that was completed. The interviews, when you conduct interviews, be ready for some time. We did a list of 5 questions from the whole questionnaire, and it ranged from 4 minutes to 14 minutes. Larry, who has a little more trouble with verbalizations and using language and answering questions, it took about 4 minutes to complete his, but I was able to get a good picture of who he was, and I was able to look at some skills that I can target. The really cool thing about videotaping them is you can videotape it now, you can implement some strategies, and then videotape it later, and then you can look at the difference. You can show the parents the difference. For the moms, the 2 moms in this video, they're so awesome. They're invested in their kids. It took about 14 minutes for both of them because when I mentioned social skills and mentioned relationships and building friends, they poured their heart out because they can both see the area of need for their son. So set aside some time when you get ready to do the interviews and just have some tissue nearby because it's an area where parents know it's important for their kids, and it's a really tough area to just teach. So this first video, this is of Becky.
He does have a girlfriend. I never thought that would happen, and it has happened, and she's a perfect fit for him. And she accepts him in his different ways. But then too, I wonder, I worry, what if that relationship fails? How's he gonna take it? Right now, they think it's their soulmates, and I hope that they are. But it's important to have other friends because things happen in life and your parents might not always be there to help you through it. Nick likes Formula One racing. He likes space exploration, anything to do with how things work. He wants to be an electrical engineer. He told me I need a new desktop computer. Okay, we just go to the big box store and buy one. Oh no, not my Nick. He wants to build his own. You may think he's looking at your eyes. He's actually looking at this little spot right here on your forehead. That's how he has overcome looking at people's eyes. He says it physically hurts him to do that. So he's learned to look at your forehead, and that's his way of getting over that pain. But he's done that for years now.
The next video we look at will be of Nick.
At any one time, I'm in constant contact with 3 to 5 people that I consider my friends. It's really varied. Sometimes we just don't talk. And I think that comes down to me as a person and how I go about interacting with people. In that I don't need constant attention. They always tend to be reclusive people. I guess what I can call broken. They're not very outgoing. They don't play sports. They don't make a lot of drama about themselves. They tend to have alternative interests, so things that aren't normal sports or cars or stuff like that. More alternative music and art and stuff like that. The easiest method for me is to make friends online. 2 of my friends, including my girlfriend, we met online through Facebook or music blogs, stuff like that. And that's really where my interests lay. My interests aren't very common. No one where I live likes to watch Formula One or listens to German music or plays weird video games. So by doing that, I think I meet people who are more in tune with me than I would just going to school, because we're all forced to be there anyway.
So with Nick, you can see that he does have some friends, which is awesome. You could see that he made some of his friends through online networks and Facebooks and things like that. One of the things that was very interesting, which is the important reason to interview multiple people, is that his mother has a different view of what Nick's social relationships are like and what his friendships are like. Nick feels like he has a good amount of friends. His mom doesn't feel like that, because in her mind, she's looking for that traditional sense of friends, those friends that you go out to dinner with on a Thursday night or you go party with. And in Nick's eyes, he has these friends that he can sit at home and play video games with, or he can connect with online. He does have a girlfriend. He's pretty proud about that. That's a brief part of what he talked about for his girlfriend. He talked about her for about 3 minutes. So that's an important thing for us to know when we're trying to look at his skills. What are his desires socially? Yes, we want him to get out and do more things, but we have to walk a line between what's natural for what's natural for Nick, and what we think is natural. So we really want to make sure that we try to keep him a little in his comfort zone to think of what are some of his interests. So if we're going to take him and we want him to go out on a Friday night with friends, make sure those friends are interested in some of the things that he's interested in. So really trying to walk the line between maintaining who they are, but also giving them a chance to do some of those other social things. The other thing, he's preparing to graduate, so life's going to change. He talks about in the video that, they're forced to be there. And a lot of individuals know that high school is a place where we're forced to be there and these friendships aren't going to last. So really trying to figure out how can you help him create friendships that are outside of the school environment, because maybe that environment is not his preferred environment, as you could see in the video, and he's told me before. So how are you really going to take these things and give him access to more social opportunities that work for him? The next thing we're going to look at is some videos from Larry and his mother and his father.
Yeah, we went out moved there with Jesse Hubbard. We're going to move there. We're going to a dance party.
To a dance party? Do you dance?
Yes, we did.
You do? Who's your girlfriend?
Hope, Sarah, Chelsea, and Allie.
Those are your girlfriends?
With 4 girls. I help you dishes.
You help the dishes? What else do you help do?
And do trash. And do vacuum.
Vacuum?
And you clean up the house. Okay. I graduated from last year.
Last year.
Are you adult?
Adult?
Yeah, right.
Huh? How do you feel? Are you happy or sad?
Happy.
Are you happy? So Larry's happy. It's probably because he has 4 girlfriends. One of the things that you'll see is there was a question that I asked him that said, who helps you? And I left that question just as it was in the assessment so that you could see his answer. And Larry's answer was what he does around the house, how he helps around the house. Know when you're interviewing individuals with autism or the parents, you may not get that answer that you're looking for, but that helps you understand this might be a deficit area that I need to work on. It's very important for an individual to know who can help them when they're in a situation of trouble or when something's going on, when they need to problem solve. So I left that in there so that you could understand that your interviews are not going to be cookie cut the way you want them to. The other thing that you'll see attached in your fast facts is I showed Larry these interview questions before we did the interview. Everybody else, I sort of cold interviewed them, but for Larry, I had some visual supports and his dad actually read the questions to him. And at first I had him to hold the questions and read them back to me, but then I decided, he can answer the questions the way he wants. So I didn't want him to read the answers that his dad had helped him to write down. So I just asked him the question. I also threw some other questions in there just so I could get some behavior momentum of answering questions. So that's Larry. He's pretty cool dude. Here's his dad talking about goals for Larry.
I would like to see Larry having his own place, working, doing his own thing. That's what I would like to see Larry.
And that's a short answer, but doing his own thing. I think that's what most parents want for their child, is to be doing their own thing. And so when you look at this interview question, you can say, how can I help Larry do his own thing? How can I help him to be successful, to live on his own? How can I help him to be able to navigate his world on his own? So that's a very important thing for us to put into our assessment results so that we can make sure that we're addressing those skills of independence. Next, we're going to look at his mother.
I would love to see Larry with his own group of friends and in a community that's accepting of him, where he can have social interactions with others, but just live his life. As a young man with autism, people who don't know him tend to stay away from him because he may do his stimming, or he may move his hands, or he may get a little frustrated because it's hard for others to know what to expect with his reactions. So 10 years from now, I would love for him to have his own place with healthy relationships with others. Larry's friends are at his day program, and with them being at his day program, he loves interacting with them. And when he sees them outside the day program, he finds it incredible and he loves seeing them. But that's not going to be all the time. So the quality time that he has outside of his day program, it really is limited to his parents and his immediate family. And that is really sad as you approach transition age. He's very tech savvy, so as a parent of Larry, we give him things that are technology based. iPad, he loves watches and he loves equipment, but he also can use those things to not be sociable. So when he doesn't want to socialize with others, he'll put his music on and listen to his music. If Larry is left alone in his peers, they listen to music together. If they are in an activity, he'll talk to them, but it's more or less like Larry is talking to them on his terms. It's not so much where Larry is talking to them where they're having a mutual conversation. And so, but Larry is a caregiver by heart, so if they need help, Larry will talk to them about helping them. But the things that typical teenage, young adults talk about, Larry is not talking about with his peers. And that's a concern because we would like for his future to be shaped by some of his ideas.
The really awesome thing that you saw with Monique and Becky, Larry's mom and Nick's mom, is that they both lit up when I talked about what are your son's strengths. And that's something that we really want to emphasize when we're talking with the parents and the providers, the teachers. What are their strengths? So what are those areas that we can build on? And also, what are the areas that you would like to see that student really excel in and be successful? With Larry, he does have some friends, and again, his mom expressed that those friends are mostly at the day program. So one of the things we might want to consider is how do we help him get some friends outside of his day program? How do we set up some social situations for him to be successful in his community? In one of the other interviews, what his mom talked about was church and how much his church has helped to give him a community outing or community options for just feeling socially accepted. So really trying to figure out what are some people in the community that are accepting of his behaviors, his autism, and going to be okay with him being around. Larry was interested in music and outings and dancing. I think he really likes dancing. He talked about that a lot. I had to cut some of that out, but he enjoys his day program, which is a great thing. But his dad and his mom both talk about him wanting to work, and he talks about doing his chores. So maybe that's something that we can really capitalize on to get him out working and maybe meeting some people in a work setting and building some relationships there. It's hard for him to answer questions, and that's something that's going to be really important if you're in a work setting, is being able to be accountable and answer questions and make decisions. So really trying to get him out and create more social opportunities for him is going to be important. All of these skills are really some of the foundational things that we have to look at for individuals with autism. When you're thinking in the context of Nick and Larry, we need to think about what's preventing them from establishing and maintaining social relationships. Is it deficits? Do they not have the skills that they need? Does Nick have the ability to go out in the community and meet friends and make friends, or does he just prefer to sit at his computer and make friends that way? Is it an excess? If you're looking at some of the eye contact or some of the chatting and shaking hands, is it an excess? Or is he shaking everybody's hands? Do we really need to pare that behavior down? Is it fluency and generalization? So that's really that ability to be able to say, I've learned to make eye contact with Miss Amanda, so now I need to learn to make eye contact with Miss Julie, and I need to learn to make eye contact when I go to Starbucks and order coffee. So really trying to figure out, how do I take those skills and generalize them to other settings? And that's just becoming fluent, and that comes with practice. They have to practice over time. Is some of it peer rejection? And when we were talking to Nick, you could get that feeling that he's probably experienced a little peer rejection at school because he is different. He talks a lot in his interview about being in the gifted room, and he also talks about making a friend at the community college, which the guy was like 40-something years old and Nick is 17. It's like, how are they friends? But that person accepted him for who he is. They had some of the same interests. That guy talks about things that are of interest to Nick. So really, is it peer rejection? Maybe they have the skills, but they just don't have the right group of peers to try to practice those skills, or they don't feel the need they don't feel motivated to exhibit those skills with those peers. Or is it all the above? And that can be the case for some of our students. Maybe we need to work on all of these areas, but really going back to what are their strengths? How can we really take those and tailor them to work for them so they can build more social relationships? So here we've looked at identifying the target behavior, looking at what are the behaviors that we need to increase, what are the areas of deficits, what do we really need to do. Our assessments are our baseline data, and so you can see in the Fast Facts, you can see some of the links for the interview questionnaires where they actually wrote them out, in the videos, you were able to see the interview questions where they actually said those to me. The other things that you would want to do is maybe videotape them in their natural setting, really get an understanding of what's going on in the natural setting. So from here, when we move to the implementation phase, we're going to establish a goal. Just like any other behavior or any other skill that you want to teach, you have to establish a goal of when the behavior is going to occur and what's the criteria. And you're going to determine the environment for implementation. Are you going to start in the natural setting, or do you need to start in a room with just you and that individual, or do you need to start with a group of friends? Really determining what environment do you need to start teaching that skill. You're going to select your instructional strategies, and I'll show you a little way that you can find some free instructional strategies in the implementation phase. Collect data and progress monitor. That's very important because you really want to continue to make data-based decisions even though you're looking at social skills and relationships and friendships and things like that. That data is really going to help you stay on track for what you're teaching that individual. That's all for now. I look forward to seeing you in the implementation webinar. Thank you.